must equip our young and old people with accurate information about the risks and consequences of drug use. We must
Karibu sana Honorable Anthony Kibagandi.
Thank you, Felix, my brother. They call you Jalas. Our PS, my friend, Mr. Omolo, Dr. Omolo, the chair of NACADA, Reverend Mairori, the CEO, and all protocols. We had put together with the clerk of the caucus a lengthy speech here, but it has been from the poems we had earlier and the speeches that have been given here. I'll be repeating a bulk of what they've already performed or said. We came together as parliamentarians who are concerned with the upsurge of drug and substance abuse across the country, and said we must get involved. This fight cannot be left to NACADA alone, and we said we will put our efforts from within Parliament into our constituencies to be able to aid NACADA to achieve its mandate. The caucus is not a committee that is oversighting NACADA. We are complementing the efforts of this particular agency in government. And we came together, including some members that are not in here today, although one of us has just walked in, Honorable Freddie Kana, who's, I'll give him an opportunity to just say his word when I finish. We want to work together with UNODC, NACADA, the Anti-Narcotics Department, and of course the Ministry of Interior, to try and eliminate this menace in our community. And I have been involved in this fight, and I've been a partner of NACADA for a while now, including when I served as the Secretary for Youth Affairs in the Presidency. And we have come to the realization that indeed the people that are using drugs get stigmatized, they get discriminated in the community. And that is why this year we say people first, stigma and discrimination, strengthen prevention. And as we grew up, we learned that prevention is better than cure. For me, while we work on what we call stigma, we also need to aggressively work on prevention. And the agencies or government departments that have let us down, because I've had rosy stories here, we have two arms of government, the national government. In the national government, the Ministry of Interior, Bwana PS, has let us down in two ways, with all due respect. The provincial administration, the chiefs, police officers, kule mashinani, they are colluding with drug traffickers, they are colluding with illicit brewers, and when they arrest someone with 100 kilos of let's say cannabis, what they present in court is about 2-3 kgs of the bang when they actually get to court. They know who they take it to for him to continue peddling. Chiefs know the people that brew alcohol in the communities. They don't make an effort. Or they do raids, they get paid and look aside. I recently visited your office and we had a lengthy conversation with Madam Beverly Opora. She was very gracious enough to give me almost an hour. And we said we need to work together. And what we are doing in my constituency, for example, we have a multifaceted approach where we push the police officers to do their work through the DCC's office and of course the chiefs. And once we get those who are using, we push them to go for rehabilitation. And those who are selling, we ask them to identify a business, an alternative business, that we can support them with some little capital for them to now move from selling changa or whatever they are selling into a legitimate business. The second arm of government that is letting us down are county governments. County governments took the role of liquor licensing. And from liquor licensing, it is that resource that they gather that they are supposed to use to create awareness in the communities and to ensure enforcement, especially ensuring that there are no backstreet pubs that sell illicit brews. But most counties use this fund as pocket money for governors and CECs for trade and such like. So what we are saying, county governments need to get up, they need to wake up from their slumber so that they complement the efforts of NACADA, complement the efforts of the Ministry of Interior so that we are able to weed out this challenge in our country. We are willing as members of Parliament to be present where you would want us to be to create awareness. When we have Jalango or Madam Mama County, Pasari, somewhere, of course they'll be able to pull crowds and be able to present the case and present and create awareness about the effects of these drugs and substances that are abused in our community. So we are willing and we want to work together. Even the Speaker of the National Assembly has sent me with greetings. He's attending a funeral. He would want to be part of this process. And we appreciate, Bwana PS, you'll take our message to the Deputy President for the aggressiveness that he has come out with to fight this illicit trade, to fight the matters to do with drugs and substance abuse. We support him in this, and we are going to work together to ensure that this actually happens. NACADA and the Ministry of Interior, we request that you don't work in silos. We need to involve the Ministry of Education so that information starts from a very basic stage. we need to involve the Ministry of Health and, of course, aggressively partner with county governments to set up rehabilitation centers. We have a rehabilitation center in my constituency, Bona PS, that is not utilized at all. It is a magnificent piece of art, but there is nothing going on there for the past 3 years. So we are looking for partners to be able to ensure that it starts functioning. Because we don't have much time, I again remind us that we are putting people first. But there is this quote, I can't remember where I read it, but it says, keeping off drugs is easier than getting off drugs. Tumesikizana? So, Jalas, we are saying we need to keep off the things that you and your friends sometimes partake in, so that we don't get to the point we are unable to actually get off drugs. My brother, Honorable Ikana, Fred, just come and say your name and your constituency because you're late, and then we'll be able to be done with the opportunity we are given as parliamentarians. Asante sana na Mungu awabariki.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
The chair of the NACADA.
Okay. Thank you so much, my chair of our parliamentary caucus against drug abuse. My name is Fred Ikana, Member of Parliament, Shinyalo constituency. I'm very happy this morning to be together with you in uniting to come up with ideas that shall help us save our youth, save our nation, and safeguard our country against this threat of drug abuse. So I'll not go into much details, just want to commit to all of you that in Parliament, we are very much focused and united to ensure that we support this team from the Ministry of Interior and even NACADA in ensuring that any policy and legal initiatives that need to be undertaken to ensure we win this war against drugs is successful and is spearheaded by the right champions in Parliament. So without any much ado, I want to wish you a very good and interactive session as I welcome the chairman of NACADA. God bless you.
Thank you so much, the team from Parliament. We truly appreciate you. And thank you for joining us today. Our chief guest, Principal Secretary, Ministry of Interior and National Administration, Dr. Raymond Namolo, members of Parliament present, members of the national government, representatives of county governments and other partner agencies, representatives of civil society organizations, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to join you and the entire world in commemorating this year's International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking, IDADA. On behalf of the Board of Directors, management and staff of NACADA, I welcome you all to this commemoration and thank you most sincerely for honoring our invitation. My sincere appreciation to our chief guests, our peers, Ministry of Interior and National Administration for finding time from your busy schedule to grace this occasion. Sir, we are pleased to host you as your presence today is a clear demonstration of the government's commitment and leadership in the fight against drug abuse and illicit trafficking. As you are aware, June 26th is a significant date in NACADA's calendar. The day provides an opportunity for us to take stock of the gains realized, outline challenges encountered, and collectively chart a way forward in the fight against drug abuse and illicit trafficking. My heartfelt gratitude to all stakeholders at national and international level who have continued to work with us in the realization of the authority's vision, a society that is free from drug abuse. Ladies and gentlemen, each year the international body mandated to coordinate the global response to the challenge of drug abuse gives us a theme that dominates the IDADA commemorations globally. As has been said earlier, UNODC this year came up with the theme, People First, Stop Stigma and Discrimination, Strengthen Prevention, as it emphasizes the need to stop all forms of stigma and stigmatizing attitude towards people who use drugs, their families and caregivers. The theme also calls on the need to strengthen prevention programs that are key in addressing alcohol and drug abuse, particularly amongst the young people. In addition, the theme advocates for enhanced public education on drug use disorders, available treatments, and the importance of early intervention support. As you will note, the theme is keen on ensuring that people who use drugs are handled with care while respecting their dignity, as this is the only way they can be reintegrated back to the community. In response to the growing challenge of alcohol and drug abuse in the country, NACADA, as the lead agency, has instituted a multi-sectoral approach that ensures the participation of all stakeholders. These are partners drawn from the public sector, faith-based organizations, and civil society organizations. This approach is in cognizance of the fact that the challenge of alcohol and drug abuse cannot be handled by one single agency owing to its multifaceted features and complexities that cut across all sectors. This coordinative role is enshrined in our mandate that is derived from the National Authority for Campaign Against Alcohol and Drug Abuse Act of 2012 and the Alcoholic Drinks Control Act of 2010. We also leverage on the legislation of other government ministries, departments, and agencies who are represented in the board to effectively to respond to our chair from the Parliamentary caucus. Actually, our board is very well constituted. We do have the PS Health is a member of our board, the PS Interior, we have the PS Education is a member of the board. They send the alternates, and we are very grateful. We have the PS Youth Affairs is a member of the board, so we have most of the government most of the government departments are represented that deal with this issue. Through these concerted efforts, much has been achieved, and we take pride in the programs we have implemented related to prevention, treatment and rehabilitation, and compliance to prevailing laws and regulations. We therefore appreciate the contribution of all partners, including those who have provided us with resources and those that are solely implementing evidence-based programs in their communities. In so doing, advancing the country's aspiration in regard of the support we continue to receive from our parent ministry. Through the intervention of the ministry this year, our budget has been enhanced a little bit, and we continue praying for more enhancement. In addition, multi-agency collaboration both at national and county level and engagement with local leaders and communities has been strengthened. We also have received enormous support from the ministry in operationalization of the Miritini Drug Rehabilitation Center. This is a project that is currently providing rehabilitation services to over 500 youths, and many have been reformed and successfully reintegrated back to their families and communities. As I close, allow me once again to thank all our partners and stakeholders for their support and efforts in the campaign against alcohol and drug abuse. Much appreciation to the public agencies facilitating the wellness programs, private agencies, as well as civil society organizations that are putting much effort in mitigating the problem of alcohol and drug abuse in their jurisdictions. Special appreciation to His Excellency the President and the Deputy President who have taken a stand. We also appreciate partners who have in one way or another have supported this commemoration, including the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. While we have received support from partners, it's never enough. The drug problem, both at the national and global level, is complex, and partnerships at all levels. Thank you. Invite the representative of UNODC to come and give their speech. Welcome very much. Let's welcome UNODC. Karibu sana.
Thank you so much, Dr. Omola, members of Parliament, the leadership of NACADA. It's my honor to be here today and to represent UNODC. UNODC is delighted to join hands again with the government of Kenya and the people of Kenya to mark this year's International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit events. The world as a whole of the complex around the globe. We are gathered here today to raise awareness about the importance of treating people who use drugs with respect and empathy without stigma and discrimination. I love these hats which says people first. And to raise awareness about the HIV and hepatitis epidemics afflicting people who use drugs, to advocate and promote evidence-based voluntary services for people who use drugs, to educate about drug use disorder, available treatments, and the importance of early intervention and support, to advocate for alternatives to imprisonment for people who use drugs, and to call for increased empowerment of the youth and communities to prevent drug use. Many people who use drugs face stigma, discrimination, which further harms their physical and mental health and prevents them from accessing the help they need. UNODC recognizes the importance of public participation and taking a people-centered approach to drug policies with a focus on human rights, compassion, and evidence-based policies. Illicit drugs and substance use remains a significant security, economic, and public health and availing comprehensive package of services for people are not the perpetrators of the problems, they are the victims. According to UNODC's World Drug Report 2023, the latest data indicate that globally 296 million people use drugs in a single year, while more than 39 million of them suffered from drug use disorders. On this International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking, we are calling for drug responses that are rooted in empathy, built on science, and focused on people. People who suffer from drug use disorders, but are blamed and stigmatized instead of receiving treatment and care. People who inject drugs are far more likely to be living with HIV, but face stigma for minor drug offenses, rather than being given a pathway to recover and rehabilitation. People who are punished for resorting to illicit cultivation of drugs out of desperation instead of being offered alternatives for a sustainable livelihood. People who continue to suffer pain because of unequal availability of important medicines containing controlled substances. And people who are denied their rights, dignity, and opportunities in life because they use or have used drugs. It is time to stigmatize humane responses that discard outdated attitudes and focus on the health and the well-being of people and communities affected by drugs. We need focused law enforcement interventions to stop drug traffickers from feeding on misery as several drug types hit new products records and the threat of raising early intervention against the world drug problem.
Thank you very much, Mariana, for representing the UNODC. We are very grateful for your presence. We also want to recognize the office of the spouse of the Second Lady. She is really supported NACADA, and today we have representatives from our office here. Let's appreciate the office of the spouse of the Deputy President. Thank you very much. It's now time that we invite our chief guests to come and address us. And sir, from NACADA, we want again to say thank you so much for your support. You've been there for us. You've provided all the support every time we've come. When we knock on your door, you've given us a listening ear, and we are so grateful as an agency in the Ministry of Interior. And so, ladies and gentlemen, shall we all just arise as we welcome our chief guest, Dr. Omolo, to address us, our PS. Karibu sana, PS. Let's appreciate our PS.
Thank you, Chairman. We may be seated. To the honorable members of Parliament, led by the chair of the caucus and the area MP, together with the women rep, the chair of NACADA, CEO and board members, the county governments represented, various. Now, this is a very important day, trafficking. Now, we are gathered here to stand in such vulnerable segments of our population and infiltrating our communities to the core. The Honorable Ndikiri mentioned that the focus is on our children, and they're the most vulnerable in this day and age. The consequences are evident. We have broken families, we have shattered dreams, we've got lost productivity because we end up spending most valuable time on either on the trade or in consumption of illicit alcohol. Then we end up with cycles of dependency and self-destruction and straining our healthcare systems. Earlier on, I was having a conversation with the Honorable Pasaris, and we were just discussing on the role that the National Hospital Insurance Fund needs to take to support in the rehabilitation programs for those who are recovering from addiction. And this is against the other numerous health challenges that we continue to face every single day. We all know how this trade is undermining our national security, and to be precise, how it is not only feigning violent crimes, but also funds organized crime and terrorism. In the last 6 months that I've been in office, I have had the front seat in taking part in the fight against this adversary. My position in management of our country's national security has landed me on a path that demands regular interaction with data on the use of drugs and narcotics. Among the most notable documents I've gone through is the latest NACADA national survey on the drug situation in the country. And it's actually mind-boggling, because looking at that data, you realize that 4.7 million Kenyans aged between 15 and 65 years are currently abusing at least one prescribed substance. At first, many of us may not see the gravity of this finding, but it stings differently when contextualized in plain figures. We're basically saying that 1 in every 6 Kenyans within this age bracket is abusing one drug or another. Unfortunately, this is our most productive age bracket. What does this mean for our country and the millions of young people who are waiting for an opportunity to live their dreams? These young men and women are looking up to us to hand them a safe, secure, and prosperous country. Can we afford to let them down, knowing that their future is at stake? Can we allow them to fall victim to the devastating impact of drugs and narcotics? Can we only play the role of silent spectators in this disturbing drama? As you may be aware, we have listed the illegal drug trade alongside illicit brews as one of the top 5 existential threats to our country's future. We have assembled a multi-agency team to spearhead a nationwide operation against the criminal networks and seal up all access gates to these trades on both the supply and demand fronts. And just to respond to one of our MPs, yes, there's been a challenge both at the national and county government in terms of enforcing or enforcement, but there is an ongoing active campaign that is calling upon all of us, not just the governments, but all the stakeholders, including the leaders, including the communities, our religious and faith-based institutions, so that we are able to address the challenges that comes with illicit drugs and substance abuse. We have those who are already affected, and the question is, how do we empathize, how do we support them, how do we take care of them? But then we must also deal decisively with those who are involved in the trade, who are actually making it difficult for us as a community to live decently and live a wholesome life. Ladies and gentlemen, besides these control mechanisms and penalization of benefactors of these trades, we are now reorienting our drug and alcohol policy towards treatment, rehabilitation, and support of those who are affected. To serve as an example, we have begun sowing seeds of change from within, and our focus is on our security officers. Many of us may not be aware that some of our security officers are direct victims of drugs and alcohol abuse. These brave men and women confront harrowing situations. Some of them come face to face with life-threatening risks. Some of them have had to contend with trauma, prolonged exposure to high-stress environments, and yet we expect them to bear the weight of our national security without failure. This is where work-related stress creeps in. It is with a heavy heart that we acknowledge this harsh reality. As part of our ongoing security sector reforms, we have prioritized improvement of our officers' welfare and more access to mental health support. We acknowledge the comprehensive support system put in place by NACADA and other stakeholders, but it is also our intention to escalate counseling services and stress management programs to avert the destructive path of substance abuse. I want to applaud the theme of this year's International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking. We have been called to stop stigma and discrimination and strengthen prevention. Apart from the reforms, the ministry is progressively fostering a culture of open dialogue amongst our officers. We are telling them, if you are an alcoholic and a drug addict, then you are of no use in our country's security sector as an officer. But not just that, there is a program that then we are working on towards rehabilitation, and also for those who are rehabilitated to be the ambassadors towards ensuring that we address the challenge that comes with drug abuse. Ladies and gentlemen, as I come towards the end of my remarks, I want to give the commitment of the Ministry of Interior and National Administration that we will continue to support NACADA to address the challenges around the resources and to put in place a conducive legal and regulatory framework to support the campaign for the nation free from drug and substance abuse. And very soon, we will be calling on the parliamentarians to support us in tightening the regulations around this space so that we end up with a society that we all aspire to have. We have recently had these engagements and campaigns in Central Region. We've gone to the Rift Valley region. Most recently, we were in Eastern. Next, we will be at the coast, and then Western region before we go to Northeastern. And this just goes to demonstrate the seriousness with which the administration of President Ruto is taking to ensure that we have a society that is progressive, a society that is not just
Thank you, Buena Pierce, for those words of encouragement, wisdom. Now we are ready for the launch, Bwana PS, and before the launch, maybe we can have 1 or 2 minutes entertainment as we prepare for the launch, the official launch of the documents.
Thank you.